we're talking about off-season moves. We've been going on the segments all of last week where we're doing our off-season checklist for teams. All right, coming up next in our number 5 overall pick, we have the New York Giants. So the New York Football Giants, what is our number one thing the Giants need to do?
Go young at head coach and GM. They got rid of Dave Gettleman. They got rid of Joe Judge. They need some kind of exciting influence in the roster. They need some energy, right? This is an old school organization. They kept trying to go old school kind of coaches, either literally older coaches or old school mentality. That's what Joe Judge was. They need a kind of spark, a youth movement, right? They need a Sean McVay, a Zach Taylor, Cliff Kingsbury, Brandon Staley. They need that kind of just youthful energy in the locker room as a coach, heading it up at the top. Same kind of guy at the GM, a capologist, someone like that who's not doing just old school like Dave Gettleman, who just kind of rambled on about why he made certain decisions. Someone who's more focused, maybe more analytical at the running the front office from the GM perspective. I think they need to go young. I think they need to bring energy into that organization.
Yeah, I think they need to go outside of your traditional guys who you're going to hire. I think that's something that's very interesting is looking at GMs, because GMs don't typically have to be like coaches. They don't have to have any football experience. They can be a little bit outside the box. You can like Billy Bean it, Moneyball if you want to. I'd like to see someone come in and do something crazy like that. Let's get the equivalent to a Sean McVay at GM. Let's get the equivalent to like Brian Flores or like Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. Someone young who like isn't afraid to spice things up, go outside the norm here. I think that would be really good, as well, obviously, as the head coaching position to follow suit. So I'm interested to see what happens. Number 2, I think we've talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. We have trade for Wilson or Watson.
Yeah, look, we all know Daniel Jones was a failed experiment. They had 3 years with him with injuries, turnovers, and frankly, just not playing well. Daniel Jones is gone. It's not going to work. It's time to move on from Daniel Jones. At the number 5 overall pick, I know they're tempted to maybe go quarterback here. Matt Corral is definitely going to be there, potentially maybe in Kenny Pickett. Maybe they go Malik Willis, who knows? So but there's a lot of options for them at quarterback. I think they have the draft capital because they have 2 picks in the top 7. Try and trade for one of those veteran guys. Try and get Watson. Try and get Russell Wilson, right? You're trying to revamp an organization. They try to go the young quarterback route and kind of build them up and develop them. Didn't work. Daniel Jones didn't work at all. And you've seen the New York Jets, obviously in New York City. It's that same kind of challenge that they had with Sam Darnold and now Zach Wilson. Building up a young quarterback and developing him in New York is hard. Get a veteran in there. Get Watson in there. Get Wilson in there. They need to make big moves for those guys, and they got the draft capital to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like we said, it's almost more because we have a pretty strong opinion where Wilson's going to go. You can see that in one of our earlier videos this week. But Watson seems like a good fit here if everything works out. Like we said, Daniel Jones, I mean, God, you reached for him. Obviously, it worked out horribly. I think he maybe had like 6 total games where he played good his rookie season. Everything else has been a disaster. Yeah, and we can tell they said for sure, 100%, they are keeping Joe Judge and Daniel Jones, and I think they fired Joe Judge a week after they said that. So Daniel Jones probably is not long for this world. We'll see how long he really lasts. But you said it. They have the capital for what Houston's asking for Watson. They are one of the few teams who actually can make the jump, and they're probably the only team who needs to make the jump to do something like that. Like we said, get a GM in there who's young, who's crazy, who's gonna be like, okay, let's sell the house, go for a Watson, somebody like that. It might seem crazy because of the legal issues not being done, but think of the risk reward on this one. You take a lot of risk, but if it pays off, your reward could potentially be massive. The best quarterback you've had since Eli Manning. What a big move that could be. And it's something that, like you said, it just seems right for the team.
Yeah.
And then number 3, we have trade back, trade back, trade back. So obviously this is if they don't use all of their draft picks on a Wilson or a Watson. What are we saying here?
Yeah, so actually both, right? So if they don't trade all their picks or a good chunk of their picks for Watson, then I still think they should trade back. If they go quarterback at 5, and they don't do what we advise, get back out of number 7, back up the draft, pick more players. This is a team that has issues everywhere: offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, running back health issues, receiver. They have health. I think they got good players, but they have health and durability issues. This team needs some depth. I think trading back, getting the opportunity to draft more players, get yourself a good number 3 receiver, get yourself another good guard, get yourself a good right tackle, get yourself another decent pass rusher, another linebacker, just get more depth, get more bodies, right? This team just doesn't have the depth that it needs to compete. And if they do trade their picks, they're, a lot of picks, then they definitely need to trade back. Even if it's in like the 2nd or 3rd round, get out of the 2nd round, pick up another 3rd, pick up another the 4th. And again, just build up that depth on that roster, because this is not a deep roster. They're very, very top heavy. They made some moves in free agency that weren't very smart. So they don't have a whole lot of cap space because they locked it up with guys like Bradbury at corner. You got Kenny Galladay at receiver, moves that didn't work out at all. Look, they need to get young depth in the building now. And the best way they do that, whether they have the picks or not, is to trade back and get more middle to late round draft picks.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on this one. When your most exciting receiver prospect is Kadarius Toney, who has been okay, I guess, this last season, I think all parts around him, you need to cast a wide net and not a deep one. You don't need to make a value pick. You need to make a ton of picks and hopefully get some value out of it. Try to fill as many holes as you possibly can by trading back, getting more draft picks, getting more picks into your locker room, and help you fill in this roster and hopefully support the quarterback that you just got. Get you a solid team, because you have a lot. You're obviously number 5 overall right now in the draft lineup. You got a long ways to go as far as your team is looking.
And especially if you get that veteran quarterback, it means you're going to have to make some veteran salary cap cuts, and you're going to have to look cheap in the draft to get some players to fill the holes. So you got to draft back, move back in the draft to draft those guys.
Yeah. And just so to reiterate her, number 1, go young at head coach and GM. Number 2, we're trading for Wilson and Watson. And number 3, trade back all of your other draft picks to try to get as many possible picks as you can into the building. So I think this is a good checklist for the Giants. I think this can grant them success in the future. Any final thoughts on this?
No, I think that's good. Let's go ahead and move on to our next one.